So it's September 11th today. And I see on social media a lot of people are equating what happened in Nepal with Indonesia, France, the UK, and on, Australia, Ireland. And hey, the protests beginning to poke its head up against mass migration here in Canada. More on that momentarily. But I think Nepal was unique in the sense it's a small, isolated country in between China and India. And the government was corrupt. It just got out of control with its own corruption. The youth rose up and tossed out the existing government astonishingly fast, which is a good thing because it kept the losses, you know what I mean, to a minimum. And how do I express this? Well, Sri Lanka in 2022, much the same happened as Nepal, but that was a World Economic Forum fueled and instigated in conjunction with the WHO, which is part of the WEF. It was a test run. I don't see any infiltration of the WEF into Nepal. There's nothing there that they would be interested in. What government is formed afterwards, of course, now the Nepalese must be cautious, but I don't see any similarity between Nepal and now we move to France and I'll say the UK. I'll kind of mostly restrict it to those two countries. So this will be day two. Well, day two will have passed in France. I'm in Canada. It's mid-morning of the Block Everything protests. And I haven't had time to look, but I'll be surprised if they aren't the same scale as what was yesterday, which was huge. It wasn't contained to just Paris, of course, and the numbers are massive. I don't think the French are going to give up until Macron, the World Economic Forum member president, steps down. Will he step down? Will it come to an impeachment? Or will they storm the Bastille? It remains to be seen, but I don't think the French are going to back down. Their position is too dire economically and, well, mass migration. It seems in the UK, they're not very far behind France in the level of discontent with their WEF government. Keir Starmer, Young Global Leaders Program graduate, who's on record as saying he puts his loyalties to the WEF ahead of that of the country he reigns over. And a note of caution if you're in the UK, Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party, is a Young Global Leaders Program graduate and WEF member. I haven't my notebooks. I could tell you what year she graduated the Young Global Leaders Program. If you want the proof that Kemi Badenoch is WEF, it's there. Nigel Farage, I can't find him having anything to do with the WEF, and his party is polling and gaining seats in local councils and stuff. So I don't think the UK is far behind France, and as far as mass migration and everything ugly societal that goes with that, just too many numbers. Doesn't matter. Don't pull out the racial card. It's a matter of numbers, not where they come from. But anyways, I don't think the UK is far behind. And it's time. I mean, the end game is here. Oh, before I come to the end game, I must remember this week, the 13th here in Canada, our first mass migration protests begin in Toronto and perhaps elsewhere. With what's has happened in Australia, Nepal to some extent, although it's washed in the wrong aspect, sort of. But anyways, and the UK, France, and Ireland. We'll see what happens in Canada. But my point is, we've rounded the last corner. This is the home stretch. The World Economic Forum told us Agenda 2030, and they signed agreements in 2019 and again in 2021 with the UN to hasten Agenda 2030 to Agenda 2025. They tell us what they're doing, You just have to listen to what they say. And so it's 2025, and now we have Mark Carney placed, not elected, not selected, placed. This was planned years ago. Carney sits on both the foundation board and the board of trustees at the World Economic Forum. He's in the top 6, easy, in the power structure of the World Economic Forum. He's not here by accident. He's here by design. And we know what the plan is. They've told us. So, as what happened in Australia, Nepal, and is happening in France, and I think will escalate in the UK and Ireland, and other places, we see the populace arising and pushing back against the globalist agenda. And I think that the French populace, well, if Macron doesn't step down or he can be impeached in their parliamentary system, if one of those two things don't happen, I think the French will storm the Bastille. And each one fuels and inspires the other. So I hate to say it, but the ugliness that's happening on the streets in France, and I do believe will continue, and again the UK, well, I hope it fuels protest here in Canada, because we're at a time with Mark Carney here. I mean, I've said it before, and I've been saying it for, 3 years now. Canada's the #1 target of the World Economic Forum. The European Union, van der Leyen, who sits on the Board of Trustees at the World Economic Forum and has so much power over the member countries through Brussels in Europe. Europe's wrung out. There's very few countries there that aren't on the very verge of what France and the UK are. So, if you were playing a global game of Risk, let's call it, remember that global or board game of global conquest, what target would you choose? South America's rich in resources still and underpopulated, but their infrastructure isn't that of Canada's. Mark Carney's not here by chance. So, anyways, I've rambled, covered pretty well all the points I wanted to. So, let's see. Next video, we're going to take a look at what's happening in Ireland. I do believe that they have an election coming up, and it's important to know who's World Economic Forum there. So anyways, I've rambled enough. We'll see what happens this week in Canada.